Force Base, upstate New York. Right now.
You're quite good at this, aren't you?
Put on trial in New York, and unfortunately, we weren't given a fair trial and we were found guilty.
So what happened?
Well, guilty.
As a result of the guilty charge, what happened?
I went to jail.
For how long?
13 months in the States.
That's not very long.
You're a brave man.
Then I got the more traditional punishment of transportation to Australia. But
For what? Stealing a loaf of bread?
yeah, and at the end of my sentence,
Yeah.
they put me on Con Air.
Yes.
Handcuffed, basically.
And Nicolas Cage was on there.
Yeah, but and I met John Cusack. Are you familiar with the movie?
No,
it's an action movie. John Cusack.
Oh, that heckle fly.
An FBI agent.
Got to back that heckle up.
In the middle of this movie, Cusack's character comes out with this quote by Dostoevsky and says, "You can judge a society by the quality of a society by the quality of its prisons in that society." So I took John Cusack in to meet Julian Assange just for his getting in his vehicle to leave. I turned to him and said, "Did you just throw that line in? Was that the script?" He threw it in because Cusack's parents were part of the anti-Vietnam War resistance in the 60s.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So what next?
Next, it's Julian Assange's 45th birthday. So I met with Julian Assange on Friday night in the embassy for 3 hours. I haven't seen him for 2 years. Hasn't had any sunlight for 4 years.
Well, with Brexit, if we opt out of the Human Rights Convention,
we can cut his head off.
We can just go in there and kick the shit out of him and hang him.
Yeah, exactly. Back like the good old days.
Human rights isn't part of Europe, though, is it?
Well, we're going to pull out of that.
Unlike any of that matters to the right wing of the Conservatives.
But I think that might be more difficult to pull out than Europe.
Cynicism is the fifth column of the establishment, my friends. I thought you were going to refer to the collapse of the European arrest warrant. But, no, you know...
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. We won't be able to extradite him to Sweden anymore. Because we'll be out of the European arrest warrant.
Oh, I see.
And he's wanted by Sweden.
But they'll probably opt in, still remain... Because
we opt out of everything,
because of the Interpol thing, they'll opt into that because of the transfer of information and intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, he's quite willing to go to Sweden if they guarantee they wouldn't forward him on to the United States. That's his position, Ecuador and them.
Sweden are just a bunch of useless patsies in this regard, aren't they?
They're pretty good on everything else.
I don't... And people quake in front of the face of them.
What are they good on exactly, babe?
Other
than their flat
Swedish Empire. The Swedish Empire, also known as Norway.
Also known as IKEA.
With the Australians, it's like...
So what have you got to say for yourself?
Americans say, they go jump, and we say, how high, and who do you want us to land on? And we end up...
Have they declared...
Australia's been in about 14 wars, only one could be considered defensive against the Japanese. Our National Day is a failed attempt to invade Turkey, which we didn't have a problem with. And... well, even if you're into militarism, you think, oh, well, we actually succeeded defending ourselves against the Japanese on the Kokoda Trail. You'd think that would be the National Day, but no. We're going to celebrate a failed attempt to invade a country we didn't have problems. So, and that, of course, led us into Vietnam and Malayan conflict and Iraq and Afghanistan.
Have they declared a victor yet in Australia from the election?
Yeah. Labour Party 1 seat up, aren't they?
The people will lose, but no, we think sounds of it.
Zing.
Yeah. So
you sound pretty depressed. You're not very inspirational.
No, he is inspirational.
I just feel sad now.
You're second only to John Pilger in my list of favourite Australians.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm on third. I forgot about Jermaine Gray.
Jermaine Gray, I was just going to mention him.
I always had the hots for her.
Oh, be quiet.
Slightly twisted.
Dirty old man.
Justifiably so. And
what about Snowden? What about the other one?
Snowden would be in custody now if it wasn't for Julian Assange and Sarah Harrison. The Guardian would have left Snowden in Hong Kong, but WikiLeaks got Snowden out of Hong Kong. And which kind of proves it's not all about Julian. It's got some sense of solidarity. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to non-violently resist and be in solidarity with those who are resisting. Not all of us have to go to jail, but we should be engaged and supportive of people. Like Chelsea Manning, I went up to meet his mother once he was sentenced. Yeah. And they'd been 3 times without any financial support from the British anti-war organisations or movement to visit Manning in jail in the States. And we went up, met them and raised the money for the next trip, So it wasn't rocket science, it wasn't difficult. We just took the family to Dublin, had a big gig.
How's she coping?
Well, I think both of them are both Assange and Manning are relatively good. Manning's in general population, works in the kitchen, so he's not worried about getting stabbed, by the sounds of it. And writes for the Guardian fairly regularly, and, transitioning.
Is Chelsea kept in the male wing?
Yeah, Yeah, well, when I was on Con Air, they never tell you where you're going. They're moving you around. And we landed. I looked out the window, it's Kansas, and we had soldiers on the plane with us who were also handcuffed. And they were being taken to 11 words. This was 11 words. Yes. 11 words of population, 20,000 people in the town, and there's 5 prisoners. 2 are military and 3 are civilian. It's about an hour north of Kansas City. So, running 6 years into a 35-year sentence.
Bloody hell.
Shocking.
It is crazy, and it's bad for government as well. That's what bugs me about it. Not just the injustice, but it's bad for government. Not having good whistleblowing means that you don't have accountability, which means you can't get better. It means you can't do things badly once and do it better the second time.
So what Snowden's revealed is that we have no privacy as individuals. Everything's sucked up by the NSA, all our texts and Skyping and stuff. And they mightn't be surveilling that in real time, but in 10 years down the track where you become a figure of interest, they can go back, all back through that and see who your relationships and connections are with. And if there's anything there with blackmailing.
With no oversight
and
as well.
There's no privacy for the individual, no transparency for the government. And that should be flipped around. There should be transparency of the government and privacy for the individual. Not that I'm a techie, but so yeah.
Excuse me, have you read the book by Susan Landau, Extreme Privilege?
No, I haven't.
She was a CIA officer. And she got lifted in prison. They tried to push her to take drugs.
Oh yes, I've seen her on YouTube with speeches.
Get a chance to read the book, it's an excellent book.
She was an insider. It's basically screwed over because she tried to speak out about 9/11.
She was told, listen, don't go to New York, there's going to be trouble there, blah, blah, blah. You know, everyone knows this woman, after over a year,
Probably the worst.
for 2 years she got released. But only because her family were rich. No, that was an advantage.
Can't impose it now.
Detrimental. She had a bit of pull.
There was a woman here at Cheltenham, Catherine Gunn, leading up to the war. She got some kind of communication from American intelligence about he's trying to blackmail other countries' representatives on the UN Security Council who were going to vote about the second resolution.
13 months ago.
And she leaked that information, and then it eventually went and confessed to her line manager and was arrested under the secret tax. Now, they were going to put her on trial, and about a week before her trial, they dropped it because when you're on trial, you go to pre-trial, and your lawyers argue for discovery, which is evidence the government have that you need, but you haven't got access to.
They wouldn't want to release it.
And at pre-trial, they won the argument that the hidden Attorney General's advice to Blair on whether the war was legal or not, which had been kept secret, should be given to the defence. And so what Blair did was drop the charges, so she never went to trial. So
That's pretty common.
Now this has since been leaked, the advice from Holt.
Yes, it was, God. He changed his mind 3 days after initially saying.
That's why they're trying to have secret trials, so they can bring cases against people.
Do you have much hope in the Shulcon?
No, I mean, I have a friend who became my godson actually. He was in the British SAS in Iraq. And most British forces were in Basra, but they gave the British SAS to the Americans. He was under American command, which was pretty fun. And his job, and he'd already done 3 tours in Northern Ireland with the paratroop regiment, he'd been in Macedonia, and was on the first troops in Afghanistan. Yeah, he was, a true believer. So,
fuck your life.
But they had him. They were flying in and kidnapping like 15-year-olds. Everyone was 15 to 16 military age, hooding and stuff, flying back to Baghdad. They'd line them up, and the Americans would go down the line and say, I want that one, I want that one. The ones they didn't want went to Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib was minimum security. The ones they wanted, they tortured. And he had a crisis, not as a Christian, but as a soldier. He said, I'm not a fucking Nazi. So they went back to Hereford, and he had no contact with the anti-war movement. Neither did Bradley Manning at the time. He had his own internal crisis about his identity as a soldier, and he came to 2 conclusions. One is, I'm not willing to go back to Iraq, I'm willing to go to Afghanistan, but not Iraq, and I'm not willing to serve under American command. So he went up expecting to be arrested to tell his commanding officer. Now he had such a good record, they let him leave quietly, hoping to keep his mouth shut. He began speaking out, and then the MOD moved on him. And the anti-war movement used him for about 6 weeks as a speaker. MOD moved on him, took him to the High Court and put a lifetime injunction that even if he says anything about how they anything to do with the British military, even how they taught him to polish his boots, they could put him in jail. Now, no one from the anti-war movement accompanied him to court.
Slap him in.
And since then, he's started Veterans for Peace. Now they've got 400 former soldiers and naval personnel who are now anti-war.
Yeah, he's been talking about him. Yeah. Not Daniel, is it? It's, Edward Snowden.
There was Michael Lyons. He was a paramedic on a submarine.
No. He left. He was in the same regiment as you're talking about.
Right, okay.
Based in America, resigned from that regiment in the British Army because he wasn't willing to indiscriminately kill Iraqis. Yeah? So we're talking about two different guys, I think.
Yeah, they were in the same room getting briefed before these raids. And the British have a yellow card, I think, without rules of engagement, which is basically you can't shoot anyone unless they're pointing a gun at you, right? But the Americans were being briefed in the same room for the same raid. If you feel any anxiety at all, just fucking open up. You know? And so they were going on the same raids. The Americans were killing people, and they were. You know?
You're in America. You got arrested in America.
Yeah.
I lived in America. My ex-wife, daughter, ran to America.
Right.
What did you get arrested?
What part of the States were you?
Mostly New York.
Marriage.
Colorado.
I was arrested upstate New York near Syracuse.
Yeah.
There was a B-52 base at Rome Air Force Base it's called. And they got closed down because of force security.
What did you get arrested for?
Well, there was a debate. We were arrested. We disabled the B-52 and dug up the runway a bit and spray painted no ball bombing of children on the runway. And
Standard stuff,
the
really.
FBI came in and there was a debate between the Air Force and the prosecution. The Air Force wanted us charged with sabotage. The two people from our movement got 18 years for that. The two have got 8 years.
Americans?
Yeah.
18 years. The Americans are crazy, man.
Well, they're a little excessive. There's one there. You don't look crazy.
I would love to hear your statement on this.
I mean, 18 years for digging up a runway. I mean, that
That was a different action.
Wait. That's not what he said. If you listen to him say about B-52.
There was a debate between the prosecution.
I mean, I break into your house, I can end up spending 20 years in jail.
That's mad,
He
isn't it?
he's disabled a nuclear bomber on a runway.
20 years in jail for breaking into a house. Are you mad? Are you mad? How much that costs?
What does it matter?
Okay, do you agree?
Actually, how much would it cost to put someone in jail for 20 years?
Do you
In the
agree
UK, it's 30 grand a
police in
year.
America are being militarized?
And there, so it's probably $100,000. Right?
Do I agree with that?
Mind you, in America, it helps contribute to the economy.
I
does.
think there is
Advertised,
that's
don't
happening.
I think they've been militarised here in Britain. You look at the footage from the miners' strike, they're all running around bobby hats.
You're getting headlines from a news article.
Well, in the miners' strike, there were many.
Okay, I think I'm losing my audience.
You've got some Yanks here. We need to explain prison reform circa Victorian period.
So you
Okay, the point I was making was there's a debate between the prosecution and the Air Force. The Air Force wanted, 18 years, so look at this. The prosecution had charged the group 5 years earlier with sabotage on a B-52. And the defence had argued that the B-52 is an intrinsically offensive weapon, not a defensive weapon, and sabotage is a crime against national defence. And the jury had found them not guilty on that count. So the prosecutor were worried that the war would go badly, there'd be a lot of American dead, which there wasn't by the time they came to trial. And
the nature of
we got
war.
charged with conspiracy and criminal damage.
Conspiracy to do what?
What did you get?
What did we
I love
get?
the idea
We
of
got
the
a
government
year.
charging you.
I ended up doing 13 months. I did a year, and then they transferred to me to a federal prison in Louisiana. It was run by immigration. And they put $50,000 bail on me. And they charged me of being guilty, overstaying a visa, which is nothing usually, you leave the country, and being guilty of a crime of moral turpitude. And I'd never heard the word turpitude before in my life. And I'm going,
Did they give you a dictionary on the way in?
no. I said, what does that mean? The guy couldn't explain it. I said, well, have you got a dictionary? And so they convicted Charlie Chaplin off to keep me out of the States. Anyway, they put $50,000 bail on me, and Casey Kasem put up 20 grand. The voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo. And a DJ.
Excellent.
So you're on the US Navy, I can tell.
No, I'm retired from the U.S.
Oh
Navy.
yeah, that's okay. Well, have you heard of Veterans for Peace?
I'm sorry?
The group called
It's a paradoxical statement, I know, but some veterans actually are interested in
Veterans
peace.
for Peace.
Shockingly.
They're big in San Diego. You're not from San Diego?
I'm more interested in his statement that Americans are crazy.
I think
American criminal justice
There's not a lot of
system is
it's a
crazy.
generalised
And I think
statement.
that's not a statement, that's a fact.
Well, it's not a...
Support your fact.
I'm from Australia.
Okay,
There's not a lot of
what is it,
cultural
20%
restraint
of the world's population, 20% of the world's prison population are in US prisons, 2% of the world's population is in the
A
USA.
lot of them are private prisons, they're for profit.
Yeah,
So
it's slave labor.
let's
It's slave
say the
labor.
number. 20% of.
I believe you can look it up on the Guardian. I believe it's 20%.
It takes time. I don't have it.
20% of the prison
It's a great
population of the
industry.
world is in the US.
Really?
Obviously, some very naughty people.
They kill more people. Texas kill more people. than Saudi
America,
Arabia.
it's very Catholic.
Texas kills more people than Saudi Arabia. There, sir. Define that. In what? In literature?
That can't be true.
Between police officers killing people on the street,
Really?
and between executions,
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's
How many executions happened in Texas last year? Because I can count
You don't
on
have
one
to worry
hand.
about executions. It's probably more the police that are doing
I
more
was in
murders.
jail in
than
Texas
And the
for
number
9
of
months,
police,
and
I
they
mean,
killed 9 people, and that was a
that
liberal
fact-
feminist, and Richards.
Well, haven't you noticed?
It happens every time I walk down the street. I see one die, and then that one over there is killed. 6 down there.
Are you
My
being
God,
immature?
man, really?
How many people do you think killed? What would be like an acceptable number of people killed on the street?
Well, you're asking me for an acceptable number. You want me
You'd be
to
all
find
right with
something?
20?
It's a cornering statement.
Yeah, what would you be alright with? Because you know how many people
The reason he's saying it is because the nature of the discussion is so mental.
Yeah. Do you
doesn't matter
know how
what
many
you
people, do you know how many people got shot, died on the streets of London this year by police officers?
Well, I don't know, but let's talk about how many got stabbed.
The answer's
because you
zero.
just had an
That's the
MP that
number.
was.
That's the number that I'm
That's a
okay
number I can work
No,
with.
it can't be zero. It can't be
Yeah,
zero.
about the ones being shot. What about the ones being choked?
It just happened on the news the other night.
All the time. You don't hear about it. They don't they?
It was just on the news 2 nights ago. So somebody was ended up being
Joe
shot.
Cox, yeah, statistically.
Oh, so
And
it
also,
does happen. You just said it didn't.
she was stabbed to death anyway, and she wasn't shot by the police officer, which is what I'm talking about.
No. I'm not talking about your MP. I'm talking about somebody else.
Who's that? What's their name?
I don't know. It was on the news.
It was on the news.
In this country,
People don't get shot by the police in this country. It's
I
just-
don't think every...
They shot. I think they shot a total.
That's not true.
They
They
do.
shot a total of about 14
Yeah,
bullets.
they shot a guy carrying a table leg recently, a couple of years ago.
that was many years ago.
The Brazilian.
Oh, it was a Scottish guy they thought was Irish.
This is entertaining.
We're talking about like
But the
one.
idiot over there wearing the flag appears
a shotgun and
I mean,
it
he
was
is.
a
I
table
mean,
leg.
he is actually.
Yeah.
Trig out
This
the
should be
coppers,
entertaining. Y'all have a good
trained by the IDF, surprise,
Free.
surprise.
Visit
Chelsea
US
Manning.
sometime, young man. You might
I've worked there, mate.
I enjoyed it, but I got deported.
He's got something, isn't he?
Get me my presidential pardon, I'll come back.
It's American exceptionalism. Keep flying the flag.
It's difficult, you know, in that culture it's difficult because